Good afternoon. I'm Randolph Cloud, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to introduce Senator Joel Ford. I feel like he's already been introduced to you. He's a friend of Senator Harry Brown. Representative Goodman has already told you that he's a very sensitive, caring, albeit hard-of-hearing husband. Senator Ford serves from Mecklenburg County. He is a fine businessman. He's a business executive with Stone Laurel in Charlotte and has previously owned and operated a number of businesses in his professional career. He serves on many of the important committees in the Senate, including Finance and Transportation. He's a 1992 graduate of NC-A&T University in Greensboro. He is married, as Representative Goodman mentioned, to Deborah Land and has a daughter, Trinity. About the only thing bad I can say about Senator Ford is he really doesn't follow me on Twitter. Ladies and gentlemen, Senator Joel Ford.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate that warm introduction. I got here this afternoon and I looked at my badge to see where I was sitting, and I'm sitting at table number 9. And I'm thinking that I'm going to be somewhere up front. Well, being obviously a part of the minority party in the Senate, I think folks are used to me sitting on the back row. I'm not. I'm not a back row type of person, so I just want to make sure that this room and that the leaders of North Carolina Free are aware that I'm not comfortable sitting on the back row, and so I do have higher aspirations to move up in the chamber. I got another question when I came here this afternoon as it relates to how does it feel to be back in Raleigh? Well, after spending 8, perhaps 9 months up here, I'm glad to be back home in Charlotte and especially celebrating with my Carolina Panthers. Now, how many of you here have had the opportunity to go to a Carolina Panther game this season? Just a few hands. Well, those of you who did not raise your hand, I need you to make a special point to go to Charlotte, go to a game, and to spend some money. You see, I've got a colleague in the North Carolina Senate by the name of Harry Brown who has his hands in our pocket. It's called redistribution of the sales tax, folks. As a Democrat, I'm not too happy about the redistribution of the sales tax, and Senator Brown knows that. He should also know and be aware that I do believe that we should take care and look after rural North Carolina. But as I've stated from the floor, and I'll state here again, I believe that that is a state obligation. We should not take money from Wake, Mecklenburg, and other urban counties in this state to take care of rural North Carolina. There's a better solution. The secretary made a comment about JDIG and the incentive program, and I'm grateful for the leadership in the House and in the Senate to be able to pass it. But one of the things that I shared with the leadership is that there's a challenge with JDIG and the way that we've structured it. We have a cap on the amount of money annually that can be contributed to JDIG, and that's $20 million. What I believe is that it pits one county against another county in limited funds throughout the year, and hopefully we'll be able to make the tweaks to JDIG so that we can either increase the cap or have no cap at all, because you see, JDIG is a self-funding incentive program. One other thing that I want to touch on as I make this transition back to my seat is that in the news there has been a lot of information as it relates to public sector services and whether or not the public sector can provide services better than the private sector. And so there are 2 high-profile incidents which I believe create some unnecessary anxiety and really give you the sense of either cronyism or favoritism as it relates to state government. All you have to do is look at the articles related to the prison services or even the towing storage services that the state was looking to provide. I come from the city of Charlotte, and within the city of Charlotte, we have a program called PCAC, which is the Privatization Competition Advisory Committee, where you have a group of private citizens who volunteer their time that will look at city government services to see where there are opportunities for optimization, or perhaps we should privatize that service to get a more cost-effective service for the citizens of the city of Charlotte. Well, the way that the state does it doesn't really give public employees the opportunity to compete. And I'm a fair person and I'm a private sector guy, but I am not convinced yet that the private sector can do a better job in some instances than the public sector. The best way to be able to determine that is to allow the public sector to compete against the private sector. And there are a number of different business models to ensure the integrity and the transparency of the process so that the private sector will know and feel like they're getting a fair shake. And so hopefully we will be able to move to more of a competitive process so that our state public employees, as well as the private sector, will be able to have the opportunity to not only bid, but to be able to provide those services. Last point I want to make, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer, but when I first got here 2 years ago, I was pulled to the side by one of the men and women in this state who I have a high regard for, and that is our North Carolina troopers. Folks, we need to honor the commitment to the North Carolina Highway Patrol. I'm going to say it one more time. We need to honor the commitment to the North Carolina Highway Patrol. Those men and women patrol our highways, and while we are safe tucked away in our beds at night, they are patrolling our highways, and they're making sure that they're safe. And so there's a we can brag about all of the surpluses that we want to, but unless we take care of those folks who are on the front lines protecting us, I don't think it really means a whole lot. And I'm going to give you a little something to think about. When the marathon bombing happened in Boston, and I'm sitting there watching all of this national news, and if you go back and you look at some of the tapes, it was the Boston Highway Patrol that were the first responders and who were on the front lines for Boston. Well, the thing that I'm thinking about in the back of my mind is the last thing I want something to happen into this state. And we've got North Carolina's troopers who are on the front line. In the back of their minds, they're thinking whether or not my kid has milk for cereal the next morning. Folks, we need to do a better job of taking care of our state troopers. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas, and I want to thank you for having me this afternoon.